live on the air. I'm Richard Saile.
This is wild.
Episode of Loungetime. I'm your host, Rich Saile. And today is the episode I cannot wait to start. Official preseason NFL predictions. We have a recap of one game for week one. We'll do the rest of them later next week. But we're going to be covering the Lions and Chiefs already from Thursday night. A lot to get into there. My preseason NFL Division winners, wildcards. I'm not going to do individual awards today. That might be a separate episode, probably in the next one or two episodes we're looking at. And then I'm going to give you my week one picks officially. Guaranteed will also be coming soon. We're going to wait till probably middle September, maybe late September, because we got to feel out a couple things for college football. NFL, it's a little hard too early, but I got a few that I would recommend when we get to the week one picks. But today, we're going to start with one recap, and that's the Lions Chiefs. Now, I know I'm a little late. Tight schedule for me. A couple things I had to take care of. But we're here today. I'll mainly be picking the Sunday games and the Monday game. But I do want to talk about Thursday's game because the Chiefs had two big guys out. Chris Jones, Travis Kelce. For those of you that were probably following up a little late, Kelce did hyperextend his knee in Tuesday's practice. I had him on my fantasy team when I had my fantasy draft early in the week. So I was trying to find out right up until kickoff. Is he going to play? Is he not going to play? And then the news came down like about 6:55. I think the inactive report came out that he was going to be out. So two big guys for the Chiefs are out. Chris Jones and Travis Kelce. And I tweeted on the Loungetime Pod Twitter account, make sure to give a follow, by the way, that I did like the Lions to upset the Chiefs. So I was waiting to make sure I get all the inactives before I make a pick. I know a couple guys will be out for the Sunday games. I'll mention as we go through the games. But those were the two big ones that I know for a fact were out in that week. So, let's get into the Lions and Chiefs, shall we? And I'm going to basically go over my big takeaways, thoughts, some early future looks on it. I mean, probably not a lot of early future looks because of the fact it's only one regular season game. But let's get to my thoughts. For the Lions, I think this showed their end of last year wasn't a fluke. They are to be taken seriously. I really think that the 1-2 punch of Montgomery and Gibbs is going to do them wonders for the season. They keep Jahmyr Gibbs fresh in passing situations. Third and short, they'll give him a couple gadget plays out of the backfield. I really like the 1-2 punch. Montgomery's their good short yardage back, power back. I think they got a good combo of him, Montgomery and Gibbs, that I think is going to do them wonders, keeps both of them fresh. I really, really like that 1-2 punch out of the backfield. I did think early in the game, their offense was a little slow to start. Outside of the Amon-Ra St. Brown touchdown, the fake punt, that was really what gave them points on the board, was that fake punt early in the game. And I like that Dan Campbell did it early. If you want to beat the champs, beat them in their building. You can't be afraid to take a risk and try something unorthodox, which was a fake punt. Second drive of the game, back up inside your 20. I liked it. I can't lie. I actually really liked it. Playing not to lose. And I think that's something a lot of coaches don't have. But it's knowing when to do it and to try to catch the other side unexpected. And I think that was a great timely call on the fake punt early in the game. Loved it. And that actually ended up being a big play in the game. One of the 5 big plays in the game that helped score their first touchdown. Thanks to Amon-Ra St. Brown. And then the Chiefs kind of got going, their defense, Mahomes did some plays that gave them the lead, 14-7. And I was saying, Detroit's offense has got to move the ball against the Chiefs' defense. They got to move the ball. They couldn't move it really far, and I'm thinking, man, when the Chiefs were up 14-7, I'm thinking, Detroit's in trouble because they're not moving the ball against an average defense at best, and that's not good right now. And then the Brian Branch pick six, to me, changed the whole life on that Lions sideline and the whole momentum of the game, right? Because once that happened, the Lions went north and the Chiefs went south. Plain and simple. Now, we'll get to the Chiefs side of it in just a couple of seconds, but Brian Branch made a huge play. I love that pick in the draft with the Lions. Getting him in the mid to late second round. Really like the pick. And C.J. Gardner-Johnson played really, really well too. Making a couple plays in the backfield on some key run plays. I will say this. I think Detroit's defense is a lot better now than what it was last year. They're upgrading the secondary. They held the Chiefs to 6 points in the second half. And again, they don't have to be all-time great, but they need to be down from what? They were giving up 30-plus points last year, which they held the Chiefs to 20. So I look at that as that's improvement. So I like the Chiefs. I like the Lions' secondary pickups with Emmanuel Mosley, Cam Sutton, and Gardner-Johnson and Brian Branch. They really put a big emphasis on that pass defense, and I can see an improved unit that's going to help them go forward, and I really, really like the way that defense was looking. Hutchinson up front, there were a couple times where on some of the replays, he was so close to Mahomes. He made a couple impact plays where Mahomes had to get rid of it quicker, and he kind of sped his timing up a little bit, and he was right there. He almost every time in the backfield, rushing the passer, he was making some plays that maybe didn't register on the stat sheet, but in terms of an eye test impact, I think Aiden Hutchinson did for a big season, and I can't wait to see how he's going to play. But he definitely made a great first-game impression. But biggest takeaways, I like the Lions' 1-2 punch in the backfield with Gibbs and Montgomery. I think Jared Goff's going to be really good. That offense looks like it's going to be the same numbers-wise, the same blueprint they were doing last year, throwing to the different receivers they have. Sam Laporta is going to be what Hawkinson was. I like that move. Iowa tight ends lately have been great. And I think that defense is going to be much better than what it was last year, not just up front, but in the back end, they really look a lot better than what they were last year. So I like what the Lions did on defense, especially holding the Chiefs to 6 points in the second half. That is not getting talked about as much. Now let's go to the Chiefs. I'm going to be nice to you, Chief bandwagons, today. I'm going to be nice. I don't think this is a big deal at all. I don't. Because I know that when they have Chris Jones and Travis Kelce there, they will be fine. It's one game. It's the opener. And usually there's been Super Bowl champion teams that have lost the first game and have gone on to win it. So I'm not going to make a big deal about it. I know the media is making a big deal about it because these shows need something to talk about. But I'm not making a big deal about it at all. I'm not. Okay? Now, if they're like 1-3, maybe then we start making a big deal about it. I'm not going to make a big deal about it after one game. I'm not that, no. Although I really want to celebrate, but I'm not doing it after one game. If they're 1-3 and they're struggling, I might, have a little more energy than I do right now. But no, not a big deal. Let's get to the Chiefs side of things. I'm not going to blame Patrick Mahomes entirely for what happened. I do understand why people say it's the receivers. Tony, who I had on my bench in fantasy, I am so glad I didn't start. And I'm hoping a lot of fantasy managers didn't start him. But for those of you that did, yikes, that's not good. All right, that's not the start you wanted. Tony had a really bad game. Rashee Rice had a touchdown. But to me, the Chiefs' offense without Kelce makes a huge difference when he's not there. It just did not look like they didn't look like they were. I know first 2 weeks, not even 2 weeks, first couple weeks, offenses need to get on the same page. Defense is usually ahead of the offense going to training camp and preseason. I get that part. But this offense just didn't look like in rhythm when, yes, it's some of the guys they had last year, like Pacheco, McKinnon in the backfield, and Noah Gray, I think, was the backup tight end, so he's been on the field before, right? But to me, the young receivers definitely looked overwhelmed by the hanging of the ring banner, and just, The lights are on. We're ready. They just kind of looked overwhelmed a little bit. You know, they dropped passes left and right, which if it hits you in your hands, you got to catch it. That's the easiest way to say it. But I do think Mahomes didn't really play well, mainly in the second half. I don't think he really played that well. But again, it's not entirely his fault. I'll be honest. The receivers were a majority of that. But here's the real big head scratcher. Andy Reid going for it on 4th and 25 when you have 3 timeouts plus the 2-minute warning. The only reason I could see him going for that is you don't have confidence in that defense. And you just have a lot more confidence in your offense, which I can understand that. But 4th and 25, you don't trust your defense to get one stop in a game? That's a little alarming. To me, that's a little alarming. But on a day where the offense doesn't look good, I would try to get, my defense to see if they can get a key stop in a game down 1. But when they didn't get it, essentially the game was over. But here's one thing two things actually I want to point out from this game particularly. First thing is, how can the referees miss obvious false starts on really Jaywan Taylor, the right tackle of the Chiefs? There were several times in the game I am pointing out, false start? How are we missing false start? The guy jumped early, and I could see him jump early a second or two right before. I was very surprised the referees did not call that often. They waited until late in the fourth quarter to do it. I'm like, the guy's jumping off sides. I'm like, he jumped a second or two early. I'm texting a couple of my friends that are watching the show right now, and I'm saying, he jumped. He jumped easily like 5 or 6 times before they finally called one. I'm like, you got to be fucking kidding me. I'm like, come on, man. I don't understand. How do the refs miss that? I mean, usually refs are right on top of false starts. There were 5, 6 times Jaywan Taylor, the right tackle, freaking jumped early. I'm saying, call it. He's freaking jumped early. And even the replay guys were saying it. Now, I know the referees that, usually in the booth doing it with the, play-by-play and the color commentator. I know they usually defend the referees and stuff. But even it got to a point where they're like, that's an obvious false start. You can't miss those. That's inexcusable. I know it's the first game of the season. But stuff like that, stuff they're usually on top of, you can't miss those. 5 or 6 times on the same guy? No. Inexcusable. That was terrible. And the second thing, and this is what really irks me. Mike Tirico said after the game, the Lions win is an asterisk because Chris Jones and Travis Kelce did not play. Okay. This pisses me off on a lot of different levels. And I don't want to get pissed off early, but this really, really pisses me off. One, in all my time that I've been following this and been taught certain things when I watch games, I have never once ever heard people say that one's an asterisk. Yeah, fans have something that they're mad about, but they don't say it's an asterisk. Maybe they don't actually say it, but in their mind, they're pissed because of a call and stuff like that. I've been pissed at certain calls, but I've never said, oh, that's an asterisk. No. Because in the NFL, things happen. Holdouts happen. Look at Emmitt Smith and the Cowboys in 93. They went 0-2, and then Jerry Jones had to re-sign him. Injuries happen right before games. It happens. They're not asterisks. They're not. They're wins and losses at the end of the day, and you got to suck it up. That's it. But for Mike Tirico to say that on national television after the game's over, no, man, that really pissed me off, man. That really pissed me off because, and I don't know if you guys think this too. I take off the bat. I don't know if you guys see it as much as I do. A lot of these play-by-play guys, some color commentators even too, you can almost sense certain times they have a bias towards one team. Without naming names, I kind of sense that there's a bias towards a team they like after a certain replay or after a certain highlight. I mean, back when I was first starting to watch, none of that I ever witnessed. I never witnessed it. They may have liked the player, but they would also be fair and critical when they had to be. But they didn't show favoritism towards one team after highlight reels and stuff like that. They didn't. Feels like really the last year, 2, 3 max, it's gotten way out of hand. And I don't want to say this, but I'm going to say this anyway. It feels like NBC, some of the guys there, it's becoming the National Chiefs Network, National Mahomes Network in my mind. I say it as a joke, but I kind of sense that early. And even last year I caught a couple times with it, but this time I'm calling it out like I'm seeing it, bro. I mean, this has got to stop, bro. We got to call it fair and honest. No biases towards one team. That's how I see it, okay? So that's something I want to point out. But I really was pissed off when Mike Tirico said that's an asterisk. No win or loss is an asterisk in football, period. Things happen. Holdouts happen. Injuries happen. We're not going to start doing this where if a key guy's out or no, an asterisk. No, none of that. At the end of the day, the menu is short in sports. Wins and losses. Okay? So I got to get to that. I'm sorry. I had to say that, but yeah, this bias stuff needs to stop. Unless you're actually working for like a team's like radio network or TV network, that's different. But as a national network, that cannot happen. Inexcusable. So that really pissed me off when Mike Tirico said that was an asterisk. I had to point that out there. I'm really sorry, guys. Which brings me to the part I cannot wait to talk about, which is giving my preseason NFL predictions. Now, I'm going to go through the divisions first, and then I'm going to go through my wild cards. Okay? I'm going to do individual predictions at a separate show, probably 1 or 2 weeks later. And I have my preseason predictions that I have written down on the side, but I wanted to just do the teams first and talk about the Lions-Chiefs game and give my week 1 picks. That's really what I wanted to do for today's show. So we're going to get into, let's start with the NFC first, actually. I'm going to start with the NFC first because the AFC, that's tough to pick. But we're going to go with the NFC first, okay? So we're going to start off with the NFC East first. Now, I think my division winner came down between to the Eagles and the Cowboys, because I think it's easily going to become one of those two teams. Now, there's been no repeat division winner in that since the 2003-2004 Eagles. That was the last team to do it. So the Eagles are trying to do that for the first time in almost 20 years. That's crazy. That division has had no repeat division winner. And I think they finally do that. I think the Eagles are top to bottom. I think they look better than what they were last year. It's crazy to believe, but from a roster standpoint, they look better now than they were last year at this time. I think Jalen Hurts is going to have a really good year once again. I think A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are going to be really good like they always are. I like DeAndre Swift over Miles Sanders at running back. I think Rashad Penny's a really good backup running back to Kenneth Gainwell and Boston Scott. I like that. So I think their backfield's better. They still keep their offensive line intact from last year. Dallas Goedert had a really good Super Bowl. He's still there. Their defensive line, they added fresh young guys, Nolan Smith, Jalen Carter. I think they're going to be key roles, especially because they've won 2 national championships for the Georgia Bulldogs last 2 years in college football. I like some of the additions on defense they were able to get, they kept a lot of their defensive guys mainly in the secondary. They kept Slay somehow. They kept James Bradbury, okay? I mean, they still were able to keep, I think they kept Kaiser White still. Hassan Reddick is good off the edge. Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox don't have to play so many snaps. They can get a break. Okay? Derek Barnett's technically still a good rotational pass rusher. I like what the Eagles bring to the table. I know they're playing a first-place schedule, and they lost both coordinators. I think at the end of the day, between them and Dallas, I just trust the Eagles roster coaching a little bit more than I do with the Dallas Cowboys in terms of their quarterback and their coaching situation and their roster standpoint. Although the rosters are neck and neck, I just think it comes down to coaching and quarterback, which I feel a little comfortable with the Eagles there. Now, as far as wild cards go in that division, I'm going to go, do that once I give all the division winners. Let's go to the NFC North. Now, this is not me being a prisoner of the moment. I had already written this down when preparing for this. I still have the Lions winning the North. It really was between them and the Vikings because I just think the Lions, this is like their year. I mean, they haven't won a playoff game in 30 years. I just feel like there's new division winners every year. I think this is the Lions' year to win the division. I think Minnesota's going to take a step back because I think them losing some key offensive playmakers in the offseason, Thielen and Dalvin Cook, even some corners in the secondary, Patrick Peterson and Kendricks they lost at linebacker. I just think that's just a lot of losses. And I know O'Connell's a good offensive mind. Kirk Cousins looks like he's playing his last season in Minnesota. I just think Minnesota takes a step back. I think the Lions, them playing a second-place schedule, Campbell coaching the way that they ended strong last year, I think they're going to win the division. And I know Jared Goff, may not be the wow quarterback. But again, I'm going to make this point again, especially in future episodes. Sometimes the quarterbacks that don't really flash the God-given talent, intangibles, all that stuff, you don't need that every time, but some teams can win with that. And I think Jared Goff has been to a Super Bowl before. He's won in the playoffs before. I think Jared Goff gets it done over Kirk Cousins and the Vikings and Justin Fields and Jordan Love in the division. So I think Jared Goff, at the end of the day, he will do enough for the Lions to win them the division, possibly make it further to like the second round of the playoffs, the divisional round. I think they're going to probably go to. But I've got the Lions winning the North. Now I'm going to skip over to the NFC West, and I like the Niners to come out of the NFC West. I think the Niners, I love what they were able to do replacing DeMeco Ryans. I love the Steve Wilks defensive coordinator pickup. I thought he did a great job with Carolina as the interim head coach. I know DeMeco Ryans was very good for them at defensive coordinator the last 2 seasons. I think Steve Wilks is going to be really good for them. Nick Bosa's coming back just in time for the Steelers game. He might be rusty game 1, but I think this defense is arguably the best defense in football. I think they'll be fine. I know they lost a couple key, second-level players like Al-Shaair and Mosley who used to be on the Niners. But I think they'll be fine. They have a lot of good veterans like the core. They were able to add Javon Hargrave from the Eagles, which I think is very, very nice pickup up front to help alleviate the pressure off Bosa and Armstead. I really like that pickup a lot. I think Fred Warner's the best middle linebacker in football, and I think they will be fine. Talanoa Hufanga was a rising star last year. I think he's going to build off that season. I think the Niners are going to be just fine on defense. Now, as far as their offense goes, I think Brock Purdy, he'll get more, I don't think he's going to get more pressure on him, but he just needs to play the Trent Dilfer role. Don't muck the game up. Let your playmakers do what they got to do. Samuel, Ayuk, Kittle, let them do what they got to do. McCaffrey, let Kyle Shanahan put them in the best position to win with that offensive line. They will be fine. I am not worried about the Niners at all. I know people are a little worried because now they got a year's worth of tape, really 6, 7, 8 games of Brock Purdy on film. I'm not worried about it. I think they're going to be fine. I think he might not have like crazy numbers, but like I said, certain quarterbacks, look, they don't need to have all the wow moments or the hidden intangibles. No. They just need to do the job the way their best position is to succeed. And I think that's what Brock Purdy is going to do for the Niners because they have playmakers around them. They have a great defense. Kyle Shanahan will put them in the best position to win. And I think Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers are going to win the NFC West. Which brings me to my final division winner, the NFC South. Now, this one, I was debating between 2 teams here for 2 different reasons. I think the Saints' schedule is a little favorable compared to the Panthers, who I actually like because I like their offensive playmakers a little bit more than the Saints. I like their defense a little bit more than the Saints because I think Bryce Young, again, I'm going to say this too. There's been certain rookie quarterbacks that have won a division their first year. RG3 did it. Russell Wilson did it. That was 2012. That was the last time they did that. Okay? And I think it's going to happen again. I think Bryce Young is going to win the division for the Panthers. I really like the offense that they have around him. I like the running back, Miles Sanders. I like the receivers they have. Jonathan Mingo I like out of Ole Miss. I like Adam Thielen. Terrace Marshall is going to be a sleeper. I like him too. I know DJ Chark's out for game 1. That's big. But again, I like what they're doing. The only thing I'm concerned about offensively is Frank Reich getting a little too cute with the analytics, and their offensive line was apparent in preseason where they're struggling. But again, that takes time. Okay? But I think Frank Reich is good at developing quarterbacks. I think he's going to do a great job with Bryce Young. He's got a lot of those things where I think he's going to have a very good rookie season. And I think he's going to take the Panthers to win the NFC South over Derek Carr and the Saints. I just trust Bryce Young a little bit more over Derek Carr this season. And I trust Frank Reich a little bit more than Dennis Allen. Okay, I do. And I'm going to go to the defense of Carolina. I mean, people forget. Carolina's defense was really, really good last season. They were really good. Okay, they still kept Brian Burns. They still have Shaq Thompson. They still have Derek Brown inside. They have J.C. Horn coming back from injury. Jeremy Chin at safety. I think this is a very underratedly good defense in this league. I'm saying it right now. They might be middle of the pack to maybe the upper half, maybe in the 10 to 15 range. They're going to be a better defense than people give them credit for. And I think that their younger defense, that they got the defensive coordinator from Denver. I don't know how to pronounce his name, so I'm just going to say he's from the defensive coordinator from Denver, which they were a really good defense last year. I think they're a younger defense. I think they're going to be better. And I think the Saints defense, they've been good for I want to say they've been good for really the last 4 or 5 years, but they're only getting older. And Cam Jordan's in his 30s. Demario Davis is up there in age. Tyrann Mathieu up there in age. Marshawn Lattimore is all right, but he's getting close to, his mid to late 20s, early 30s. They're getting older. And I think Dennis Allen's okay as a head coach. I think he's more of a coordinator. And I just think that defense might have already hit its ceiling. I think I would expect a step back from them compared to the Panthers, who are younger, and they got a lot of guys into the early to mid-20s. I think they're going to be much better on defense than people give them credit for. So I like the Panthers for those reasons over the Saints to win the NFC South. Now, let's recap the division winners that I have. I had the Eagles winning the East. I had the 49ers winning the West. I had the Lions winning the North. And I had the Carolina Panthers winning the NFC North. So I have 2 different division winners in the NFC. Let's go to the wild cards. I'm gonna start with my obvious. I think the Dallas Cowboys make the 5 seed. I think that Dallas is right up there with the Eagles. They'll be battling for the division, but I think the Eagles eventually win that division. I think Dallas is the top wild card. I think their defense is going to be really, really good, top 10 material. I think Micah Parsons is going to be on that mission to win Defensive Player of the Year. He's been close the last 2 seasons. I think Trayvon Diggs with Stephon Gilmore is going to be a nice 1-2 cornerback tandem. Okay, Van Der Esch is still there from Boise State. I like some of the guys they have up front with Dallas. DeMarcus Lawrence. Mozzie Smith's good against the run. They need somebody to stop the run up there. And I think that Jaron Curse is not bad at safety. I think the Dallas Cowboys are going to be just fine. I think their offense, once Dak gets in a rhythm with McCarthy, with Brandon Cooks, CeeDee Lamb, I really like them. Michael Gallup, if he can work his way to the number 3 role coming off ACL injury from last season, I think that's going to be a really good receiving core. And I think Tony Pollard, Deuce Vaughn, if they're going to split carries, that's not a bad 1-2 running back duo. Their offensive line, they'll be fine. I know Zach Martin was holding out, but he's back. Tyron Smith's getting older, but you want those experienced veterans on the offensive line that have been there. And I think the Dallas Cowboys are going to make a wild card spot. I think they're going to be fine. They'll make the wild card. I got them as my number 5 seed. My number 6 seed are the Seattle Seahawks. I think last year I know I took a lot of heat for not thinking Geno Smith and Drew Lock would be good last year. All right, but let's be real. One, the NFC is much weaker than the AFC. Okay, the NFC, there's a lot of question marks with a couple other teams. I like Seattle over a little bit of those teams with question marks that I'm going to probably mention that I left out. But I'm going to go with Seattle because I think Geno Smith's going to take a step back from what he was last year. I think he'll be good, not really good. I think he'll be good, okay? Kenneth Walker's coming back, right? I like him as the running back there. They still have Metcalf and Lockett, and they added Smith and Jigba for receiver. I think their offensive line's getting a little better at a time, okay? I think their defense in the offseason, Seattle did a really good job with some of the pickups they added. They brought back Bobby Wagner. They brought Uchenna Nwosu there to help up front. And I think their run defense, worries me a little bit. But I think Pete Carroll, we've seen the winning pedigree he's been able to do. Okay? He knows how to get his guys to play defense. He's got them playing confident, energetic. I think they're going to be fine. I've got them as my number 6 seed in the NFC. And I think they get the second wild card spot in the NFC. Which brings me to my 7th and final NFC playoff spot, my final wild card. Now, I was deciding between a couple teams here. I had at least 3 I was debating. I had told one of my friends I had already this picked, but I'm flipping it. I'm going with the New York Giants. I really think that the Isaiah Simmons trade is something they really needed a lot. They needed some help at linebacker. Kayvon Thibodeau is a good pass rusher to help Dexter Lawrence and Leonard Williams. So they got 3 guys to worry about up front. Simmons is a really good athlete. They need somebody to kind of help the middle of the field. I think that's where his best skill set is. They upgraded their secondary with Deonte Banks in the draft, and I think that they're going to be fine on defense. I think they're going to be fine there. The question I'm going to have is if Daniel Jones is that guy. I don't think he is, but again, I'm not saying they're going to be better than what they were last year, but I do think they're good enough compared to a couple of those other teams in the NFC to make a wild card spot. I don't think they have any excuses not to make the playoffs. They've been deep. They made it to the divisional round last year, and Daniel Jones won a playoff game against Kirk Cousins. Whether I like it, whether we like it or not, he won a playoff game against Kirk Cousins, so he's won in the playoffs before. Saquon Barkley's back. He's not holding out. I love the Jalen Hyatt pickup. I hate that he went to the Giants. I wanted my Patriots to get him. Different story, okay? Now, Darren Waller's questionable. I'm going to go there when we pick the game. But I think the Giants have absolutely no excuses not to make the playoffs. And I think they are better than some of the other teams I'm going to mention that I left out of the playoffs. So I got the Giants as my 7th and final wild card spot. Yes, I'm picking the Giants, and I'm not making any trolls here. I think they're good enough to make a wild card spot, but I think they're the 7th seed this year. Now, some teams I left out. You're probably like, Rich, how could you leave them out? Let me explain. I left the Saints out because I have questions about Derek Carr being a guy that can take a team, as talented as the skills were in Vegas last year. They had Devontae Adams and Waller and Renfro, but they didn't make the playoffs. I thought they would score a lot of points. They didn't. He has Chris Olave, who I like as a receiver. Michael Thomas, I don't know if he can stay healthy. Kamara suspended 3 games. Okay? And I know Pete Carmichael is a good offensive coordinator, but I don't know if he's better than Josh McDaniels is calling offense. I don't know about that. And I think the Saints defense is getting older every year. And I think they're going to take a step back. I don't think Dennis Allen is that great of a head coach. I think he's more of a coordinator than a head coach. So I think the Saints take a step back, in that division again. I don't think they're going to win the division. I don't think they're going to make a wild card. Okay? So I got questions there. Minnesota. I mentioned it earlier. They lost some key guys on offense. They're playing a first-place schedule. And I think their defense is going to be all right. I like the Brian Flores pickup. I just don't know if it's enough to make them significant players in making a wild card berth over the Giants, Seahawks, and Cowboys. I don't think they're better than any of those 3 teams, personally. I don't. I know people like Jordan Love in Green Bay with what's going on in preseason, but I remind everybody, it's preseason. I'm not going to make too much stock out of it, okay? So, yes, I left Green Bay off. And really, I think, the 3 teams I was debating for that 7th spot were the Giants, the Vikings, and the Saints. But I like the Giants a lot over the Saints and Vikings for the reasons I stated. Not just for the Giants, but for the Saints and Vikings as to why I have them out and I have the Giants in. All right, so my wild cards. Cowboys, Seahawks, Giants. That's my picks, and I'm going to stand by it, okay? Let's go to the AFC. Now, this is really, really tough because this conference is 10 deep. So, basically, this is the gauntlet every single Sunday when these teams meet, okay? I wouldn't be mad if a couple of teams that I don't say make the playoffs. I would not be. Again, everybody's got different picks for this conference, okay? And in general, I'm okay with agreeing to disagree on my picks. That's fine. But these are who I think are the 7 best teams in the AFC and who will make the playoffs, okay? So let's start with the AFC West. And no, I'm not going to say the Chiefs don't win the division, even after they lost game 1. No, I had already picked the Chiefs to win the division prior to Thursday night. I'm going to still stick with it. I think Andy Reid and Mahomes, they'll be fine. They just may not be the convincing 12-5, 13-4 that everybody's been used to. They'll win the division, but it might be 11-6, 10-7, because I think that the division's gotten stronger. All right, and I'll mention a couple other teams when we get to the wildcards. But I think the Chiefs just get by. I'm going to say they go 11-6. All right, 10-7 at worst case scenario, but 11-6 to win the division. But they don't have that convincing division lead or that convincing record that says, yeah, they're going to win the division. They go 11-6, maybe be about 2 games, ahead of the next close team in that division. So I got the Chiefs winning the AFC West. I don't care what happened Thursday night. That's my pick was in before this, so I got the Chiefs winning the AFC West. They'll be fine. To the AFC North. This is tough because a lot of these teams I think could win it. Well, really, I think all of these teams could win it. If you outline each case really well. But I'm going to take the Bengals here. I don't love this because Joe Burrow's got that calf injury. I'm a little worried how he's going to make it through the year. But I think, they're going to be fine. I think as long as the Bengals find a way to protect Burrow from injury, they're the team to be in that division. I think they win maybe by a game or 2 of the next closest team, but I think they're all going to beat each other up because they're so close to each other, okay? So I like the Bengals to win that division. I trust Chase, Higgins, Mixon. I think their skill position players are going to be fine. My questions are with that offensive line. They had Orlando Brown Jr. from the Chiefs. He's definitely better than who they had at left tackle last year. And I think the defense, I've said it last year. You can go back and watch some previous episodes from last year. They play good team defense. They don't have one guy that sticks out, but they have good team defense. And I think, they lost some key guys in, the offseason. Jesse Bates. I know. Von Bell, I think they lost. So I'm a little concerned there. But I think Lou Anarumo is going to do a good job of getting them to play good team defense. And I think they're going to make it to just make the playoffs and win the division. I think they'll be fine. They'll at least go to the second round of the playoffs, and I think they're going to be okay. As long as Joe Burrow stays healthy. I'm going to take the Bengals to win the AFC North. To the AFC South. I am very confident in saying this. I think the Jacksonville Jaguars are a walk-in to win this division. Okay? I think the Texans are culture in rebuilding years. I know the Titans, Vrabel's going to have them very well coached and all that. I get it. I think that team hit its ceiling. The door closed on them. Derrick Henry's getting beat up. Okay? He's taking so many carries. It happens to those running backs who get a lot of carries and wear and tear. Their bodies break down. I think Derrick Henry is declining in play. The start of last season kind of showed that for me. I don't think he's really the same anymore. Okay, so I think Derrick Henry's kind of wearing and tearing. He's almost in his 30s already. That's usually when running backs hit the wall. And I think the receivers don't really strike out as somebody that can really do a lot for them, right? Julio Jones didn't work out. Robert Woods hasn't really done a lot for them, okay? And they, the defense is okay, but I don't think it's something where I go, oh, okay, I'm really worried about them. No. I think the Titans will be, they'll be all right, but I don't think they're going to be as good as people think. So I think the Jacksonville Jaguars, I'm going to say it again, with Calvin Ridley coming back for a full season, I think Trevor Lawrence might even be, I'll give you a little sneak peek of some individual awards. Don't be surprised if Trevor Lawrence is in the top 3 in MVP voting this year. I'm serious about this. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be having a big year 3 where people go, yeah, that's the reason he went number 1 overall in the draft a couple years back. He's going to have that type of season with Calvin Ridley, Doug Pearson's still there helping him, make another jump from year 2 to year 3. Etienne's back, his Clemson teammate, somebody he's familiar with. I think the Jacksonville Jaguars are a walk-in, shoe-in pick to win the AFC South. I'm not joking. I'm confident about this, and I'm going to stand by that. Which brings me to the AFC East. No, the team on my shirt is not winning it. No, they're not. I'll be honest. I'm going to take the Buffalo Bills to win the division because I have questions about the Jets' offensive line, and I learned last year teams with the most hype don't necessarily live up to all the results, okay? But I don't think that the Jets are better than the Bills at this current rate. I think the Bills, now that the DeMar Hamlin shock is over, he's made the 53-man roster, they are now refocused. They are now going to prove to everybody that they are the team that everybody knew they were last year before that traumatic event shocked them and shifted their whole focus. They will return to that really good team that was going to be the number 1 seed in the AFC, and I think the Bills are going to be just fine winning that division. So I'm taking Buffalo to win the AFC East over the Jets to win the division. So I'll recap my AFC Division winners. I've got the Bills winning the East. I've got the Bengals winning the North. I've got the Jaguars winning the South. And I've got the Chiefs winning the AFC West. Now let me get to the wild cards. I'm going to say the Jets make the wild card. I think their first 9 games is going to be a true test. I think they have to go 4-4 or better, worst case scenario, to make sure they'll be fine. I think they need to go 4-4 in the first 8 games. If they don't go 4-4, I would even say 3-5 the worst case. They have to go at least 3-5, 4-4. I think they'll be fine. If they go worse than 3-5, I think Jet fans then start to be worried. Okay? But I think they're going to be fine. That defense will win them games. I think Rodgers is definitely a way better upgrade over Zach Wilson. The skill position players, they'll be fine. They brought Hackett, who can get Rodgers up to speed on that offense. I will remind everybody, Peyton Manning, it took a couple games. I think they were, 2-3 through 5 games in 2012 with Denver. Okay, Tom Brady and the Bucs were 7-5 his first season, and then they caught fire. Okay? I remind everybody, don't be surprised if they're a little off the first couple of games. It needs time. I'm expecting that with the Jets. I know Hackett and Rodgers have been familiar with the Green Bay days, but this is still a different offensive line. It's a different receiving group. Okay? I know he brought Cobb and Lazard over from Green Bay, but Garrett Wilson's not used to the Green Bay system yet. Okay? It takes them time to all get on the same page. So I have the Jets as a wild card in the AFC. The second wild card I have in the NFC is the Pittsburgh Steelers. And yes, I think they're going to be way better than people think. Okay, a lot of people are underestimating how good they were. Okay, may I remind you guys, they were 1-7 last year. I think through the first 8 games, 1-7, and they won, I believe, 8 of their last 9 to go 9-8. I think they were 8 of 9 because I think they were 1-7 when they lost to the Eagles or last year in the middle of the season. So they won 8 of their last 9, and Kenny Pickett's going from year 1 to year 2 leap. Okay, I think that Jalen Warren's going to have an underrated impact on their offense to help take the workload off Najee Harris to keep him fresh. George Pickens in preseason, I love him as a sleeper in fantasy. So if you guys pick George Pickens in fantasy, good. I think he's going to have a really good year. Okay, I think that the defense, they kept their core. Hayward, Watt, Highsmith, Minka Fitzpatrick. Patrick Peterson's a good veteran corner. I think they needed that. I think that's going to do volumes. Mike Tomlin's going to have those guys ready to play. They play a third-place schedule as opposed to the Ravens and Bengals. I think Pittsburgh's going to be just fine, and I think Kenny Pickett and the Steelers, they're going to make the playoffs, and I've got them as my second wild card in the AFC North. Now, this last wild card spot, there were a lot of teams to consider here. Okay? There were some teams in the East to consider. There were some teams in the North to consider. But this is actually coming from the AFC West. I'm going with the Denver Broncos with Sean Payton in them. Okay? I know Russell Wilson's been a playoff quarterback before. I know he knows how to get there. I know Sean Payton knows how to get to the playoffs. Okay? This defense was very good last year, despite a putrid offense and putrid coaching staff. Okay? But if there's anybody that can fix Russell Wilson, it's Sean Payton. Javonte Williams is coming back from injury. Okay? I love the defensive acquisitions they were able to get. Getting Frank Clark on defense. DJ Jones in the middle to stop the run. McGlinchey to help the offensive line with Garrett Bowles on the other side. And I think this defense with Patrick Surtain too, Justin Simmons, they are going to be really good once again. Okay? I don't know about Vance Joseph as the coordinator, but I think the talent will help get them into the playoffs with them playing a really good defense, and Sean Payton can call the offense the way he knows it back to the early Saints days where they were really good. So I think that I trust Sean Payton and Russell Wilson over some teams I'll mention that I left out. But I think Sean Payton and Russell Wilson, combined with the really good defense that they had last year with some of the pickups they made in the offseason, and they're playing a last-place schedule, that's going to serve something. So I think the Denver Broncos make the playoffs and my final wild card spot in the AFC. So I'll recap my wild cards. I've got the Jets, Steelers, Broncos. That's who I have as my wild cards. Now some teams I left off. The Miami Dolphins. I don't think Tua Tagovailoa is going to stay healthy for the full season. I think that he has once again shown he cannot beat the elite teams, especially in the biggest crunch moments in must-win games for that team. I don't think he did that. I remember Green Bay he struggled with last year. I remember, he played pretty good against Buffalo in the snow, but he didn't play well against Green Bay. He didn't play well against the Chargers. He didn't play well against the 49ers. So I know what Tua's resume is by now. He cannot beat the really good teams when he needs to. That's why I'm not taking Miami. And Jalen Ramsey's out to at least till Thanksgiving. So I think that's going to be something that hurts them because Miami needed some cover guys. And with Jalen Ramsey being out, I think that hurts them at least through Thanksgiving. My New England Patriots. I don't know why people think we can be a playoff team or a sleeper team. I don't see it. I think this offense is going to be better compared to last year. But our offensive line sucks. And I think our defense is good, but I don't think you can keep trusting that defense to win at least 8, 9, 10 games. You need the offense to be able to win games. I don't know if this offense is good enough to win games. Okay? I think there's some nice players, I think, on that offense, but I don't know if they're going to be enough compared to some of those other gauntlet teams in the AFC. I don't think New England makes the playoffs. I'm going to be honest. I think we're in last place in the division, even though I'm wearing a Patriots shirt because I'm a Patriot fan. So, no, I don't think we make the playoffs. The Ravens, I left off. I don't know if Lamar Jackson can really throw the ball and be an elite passer like people think he can be. I don't know if he can. He's playing in a new offense with Todd Monken, who's coming from Georgia, right? Where, he's used to throwing the ball, with Stetson Bennett, with Brock Bowers, and those receivers he had at Georgia. I don't know if Lamar Jackson can do that. I will say they have no excuses for it not work. Zay Flowers was arguably the best receiver in the draft last year, people thought. Odell Beckham Jr. is coming back. He's had an offseason of rehab. Mark Andrews is a top 2, top 3 tight end in the league. Okay. I don't think the Ravens have any excuses. I'm going to be honest. I don't think they have any excuses whatsoever. They don't. Okay. And I'm serious. I don't think they have any excuses. Lamar has all the things needed for him to succeed. Now, we need to see if he can throw. And I don't think he can throw at an elite level to become an elite passer. I don't. I know somebody I made fun of last year has him having his best season ever. I don't see that. I think he'll be good, but I don't know how he's going to be as an elite passer. That's why I'm not taking them. And I think some of the guys they lost on defense, Marcus Peters, and I think that defense is good, but second place schedule, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I think John Harbaugh will have them fighting up until the last week of the season, but I don't trust Lamar Jackson to take that big of a leap that people think he's capable of. So I don't have them. And I left off the Chargers. I said in the middle of the show last year, I'm out on Brandon Staley. I'm out. I don't trust Brandon Staley with the going for it on fourth down. I think he ruins games that way by ruining his opportunities, especially when he should just be smart, but he's too ultra aggressive. And I think that there's going to be games where he costs his team to where they go, if he didn't do this moment, we probably could have made a wild card. But I'm counting on him doing that. I am counting much on him. I think Kellen Moore is going to be too pass happy with Herbert and those receivers. Plus, the Chargers every year, something happens with an injury. Whether it's Joey Bosa, whether it's Khalil Mack, whether it's Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. Last year, Mike Williams got hurt. I feel like they're injury bug every year. They always get an injury bug. And I just think the Chargers, for all those following reasons, I don't think they're a playoff team. I don't. I think they take a step back. So I'm going to say all those teams I just mentioned are not better than the 3 I have in the playoffs right now. So once again, I'll repeat. The Jets, Steelers, Broncos are my wild cards. And I left off a number of those teams that I just left out. So those are my AFC playoff picks, my wild cards. So let's now get into the week 1 picks, starting with the Texans and Ravens. CJ Stroud's in for a long day, that first game. Okay, he really is. And I think the Ravens, Lamar Jackson, they're going to make everybody look like, oh, yeah, look, he can throw now. And, oh, yeah, they look like they're a new offense. They're going to be really good. I'm going to say pipe down. It's the Texans, okay? I got the Ravens winning 30-6 over the Texans. I'm not expecting much from them, okay? I'm not expecting much from the Texans to put up a fight at all. I'm not. I'm going to say the Ravens 30-6 over the Texans, okay? Bengals, Browns. Sneaky good game of the week. There's some trash talk leading up right now. Jamar Chase calling them the same old Browns, and he said something about the Elves, and Myles Garrett saying that's disrespectful. This is why it's a rivalry. Okay, Deshaun Watson now got a full year to, get used to this offense and get on the same page, and I think that offseason is going to be big, but not this week. Okay, I think the Bengals, it's going to be close, but I think a late connection from Burrow to Chase or Higgins, I think, is going to separate this game. Or Tyler Boyd, I forgot about him. I think the Bengals win in a close game. I'm going to say 27-20, Bengals over the Browns, okay? That is a sneaky good game of the week. Do not sleep on this game. Vikings and the Bucks. I'm not expecting much from Baker Mayfield in Tampa. I think they're going to be a top 5, top 10 pick in the draft this year, okay? And the Bucks are going to see. There's a huge drop-off between Tom Brady and Baker Mayfield. They're going to be a huge drop-off, okay? I got the Vikings winning 24-10 over Tampa, and I think the Vikings start off very strong in this game. I think they win 24-10 over the Bucks. Titans and the Saints. I'm going to be honest. This is a coin flip game. Okay? I don't think the wrong team's favored here because the Saints are home. The Dome is going to be rocking. It's a hard place to play in. Even though I said all of those things, I am taking my second upset. See my Twitter account for the first upset that I had. I had the Lions over the Chiefs. So that was the first upset. Okay? This is my second upset of the week. First upset of the day. Okay? I have got the Tennessee Titans going into New Orleans and beating Derek Carr in his Saints debut. Because I think the Titans are going to win this game. I think it fits right to what they want to do. And I've got the Titans winning 16-13 over the Saints. I lean the under too. If you're, a betting person, I would lean the under in this game. I think this is going to be a low-scoring game. I think it's going to be tight. I think it's going to come down to which team can make the bigger plays and which team doesn't turn it over. I got the Titans winning 16-13. I think it favors what they want to do well compared to the Saints. Panthers and the Falcons. Again, I'm feeling the upset fever. I'm going to go with the Carolina Panthers to upset Atlanta first week of the season in Atlanta, okay? I really think Bryce Young's going to have a really good season for them, okay? I think that I said it earlier. I like the weapons that he has on offense, running back, Miles Sanders. I like the receivers, the tight ends. Their offensive line is going to scare me, but I don't know who in Atlanta is going to be the one guy they worry about up front. I don't know who that's going to be, okay? And I thought that they were going to take Jalen Carter in the draft, but the Eagles got him. And I think the big question I have for Atlanta, and it's been that way for 3 years now in Loungetime, who is going to be that one guy you have to key on that an offensive line's got to respect? I don't think they have that one guy. Grady Jarrett's really good, but he's more of a guy that can stop the run. But he can rush the passer a little bit, but not to a level where I think teams worry about him. I think he's their only guy, and then a couple of these other guys are just all right. Bud Dupree's okay. He's good, but I think that up front, I don't think the Falcons have that one big guy outside of Grady Jarrett that teams worry about. So I'm going to go with the Panthers to go in there and win in Bryce Young's rookie debut. I'm going to go 21-16 Carolina over Atlanta. My second upset of the day. Jaguars and the Colts. Anthony Richardson's first debut as a Colt, and Trevor Lawrence is going to go into Indianapolis and show why the Jags have the Colts number once again. And I think the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to be really good this year. And I think that the Jaguars, to me, are better. I wouldn't be surprised if it may be a little closer than what I have it at because it's division and these teams are familiar with each other every year. But I'm going to go with the Jaguars to beat the Colts 28-17 because I think Trevor Lawrence is going to have a big day. The Colts lost some guys on defense this offseason. And I know who Gus Bradley's the coordinator there, and I think you might have heard me say it last year. Gus Bradley doesn't really adjust a lot. He's brought the same thing with him from his Seattle days and stuff. I'm going to go with the Jaguars to win 28-17 over the Indianapolis Colts. Steelers and the 49ers. I'm going to go with the upset again. I was really, really surprised that the line hasn't moved towards Pittsburgh yet. But again, Bosa coming back, I guess, is why it's left at Niners -2 right now. But George Kittle's questionable. I just think Pittsburgh's going to go in there and win this game. Let me lay out why. The Niners are coming all the way from the West Coast, San Francisco, California, going all the way up to East Coast, to Pittsburgh. Long travel distance for those people that know. That's a long travel to Pittsburgh. Okay? And again, Nick Bosa's, he's just practicing Thursday? When he got the new deal, Tuesday, Wednesday? I don't know if he's going to be rusty. Okay? And Brock Purdy, I think Mike Tomlin and that defense are going to give him some tough looks up front. And I think they've had a whole offseason to kind of study him. Okay? And I think the Steelers are going to go upset the 49ers at home. And I've got the Steelers winning in Heinz Field 23-20 over the 49ers. I think that Pittsburgh is going to make a big year, and Kenny Pickett's going to start off really strong. And I think that the Niners will be a little rusty, but I'm going to say the Steelers, building off the high from last year, I'm going to say the Steelers win 23-20 over the 49ers. Washington Commanders, Arizona Cardinals. Now, I don't think I've picked an upset. No, not upset. A shutout. Sorry, I had the wrong word. I don't think I've picked a shutout ever in Loungetime history. Until now. Yes, it's going to happen. If you guys are playing Survivor, this is my lock of the week. Okay? This is my 100% guarantee lock of the fucking week. Okay? I'm calling it right now. This is the first shutout. This is going to be the only shutout of the weekend. The Cardinals are starting Josh Dobbs. Zach Ertz is questionable. Okay? The Cardinals, it's really James Conner or bust. I know Jonathan Gannon's starting his first game as a head coach. The Commanders are actually better than people think. I'm serious about this. Sam Howell, a lot of people like him in the organization. Big year for Ron Rivera. They got new ownership. They want to make the fans in Washington believe. And I think that the Washington Commanders are going to start the season with a shutout over the Arizona Cardinals. Give me the Commanders 31-0. Yes, bucket. My lock for Survivor picks guarantee Washington Commanders shut out the Arizona Cardinals 31-0 opening week. Broncos and the Las Vegas Raiders. I am going to take Denver to beat the Vegas Raiders. I'm serious about this. Let me make a quick joke here. My Uncle Al was on for our Super Week doubleheader, okay? I think he's a closet Raiders fan. He doesn't want to say it, but he's picked the Raiders to make the playoffs 3 times on Loungetime, okay? He's picked them 3 times, all right? I think he's a closet Raiders fan. So him and I know we're disagreeing here. But, again, I am taking Denver because I think Sean Payton is a better coach than Josh McDaniels is. I think that Russell Wilson at home, the fans in Denver are excited. I think Sean Payton's going to have a game plan. I think the Raiders defense, they've had problems already with Chandler Jones. There's a distraction leading up into the week. And I think that we don't know how healthy Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be. So I think that the Broncos are the team I trust more in this situation. I'm going Denver 24-19 over the Las Vegas Raiders to win in Sean Payton era, and it starts off with a win in Mile High. Chargers and the Miami Dolphins. Do not be surprised if this game is high scoring, up and down at all. I'm serious about this. I think both teams are going to score. I think if you have your receivers for either of these teams, I think you're in for a huge day. I'm serious. But I'm going to still roll with the Chargers and Justin Herbert. I think that Justin Herbert, to me, is better than Tua Tagovailoa as a quarterback. I think the Chargers' skill position players are better than Miami at this current point. I think Miami may have a little bit better defense overall than the Chargers do, but I think it's going to come down to who has the ball last, and I think the Chargers are going to be that team that go down, make a game-winning field goal, and I'm going the Chargers 31-28 over Miami. So I think this is the highest scoring game of the weekend. I'm going with the Chargers 31-28 over Miami. Packers and the Bears. Jordan Love has his first real big start. The Jordan Love era starts tomorrow. I know he had the one start with Aaron Rodgers when Rodgers got COVID and all that, and that was really his first real start against Kansas City 2 years ago. I know. But this is his first real start where he's starting. The era, it's going through him. But let me remind everybody, it's preseason, okay? And I think there's this narrative where Favre and Rodgers, they have owned the Bears for the last 30 years. Guess what? That's not happening this year, okay? It's not going to happen. They are going to learn what it's like to have an average quarterback at best, a young quarterback. There's going to be growing pains. Chicago Bears are going to beat the Green Bay Packers, and they're going to flip the script of the Packers owning them. And I think the Bears are going to start owning them, starting with this game here. And I think Justin Fields is going to have a really good game against the Packers. I really do. I've got the Bears winning 20-16, okay? I wanted to get this when Green Bay was favored, but I waited too late because now the Bears are -1.5. And I think the Bears are going to beat the Packers. I think the Packers lost a lot of guys. I think that Jordan Love, there's going to be growing pains. And I know the first real start he didn't look really good, but, he had the good moment against the Eagles last year. But I'm sorry. He's going to get his first real test of what NFL defenses are going to do to him. And I think that the Bears, they made some nice moves. I like the offensive line improvements they made. I think DJ Moore's a really good number 1. I know Claypool's now the number 2, and Cole Kmet's a really good tight end. But I think the ability of Justin Fields and his running ability are going to be what gives the Packers too much problems. Give me the Bears 20-16 over the Pack. Seahawks and the Rams. Cooper Kupp is out. For those of you that are fantasy managers, he's out this game. And I'm sorry. I don't think the Rams are as good as people think they're going to be. I think they lost a lot of guys from their Super Bowl window, and I learned that hard lesson last year thinking they'd be fine. But I'm going to go with the Seahawks to win this game. It's in the 12th man. I think that, Pete Carroll and those guys, I think Matthew Stafford's getting older, and he just doesn't look the same. And I think, they lost Allen Robinson, the Rams, so I don't know who their established number 2 receiver is over there. And I just think that, Van Jefferson, I think, might be the 2, actually. But I just think the Rams, their offensive line's okay. Stafford's getting older. I don't know who their real running game is. Cam Akers, really? No. I like Seattle to win pretty convincingly here. I like Seattle to win 23-13 over the Rams. Eagles and the Patriots. I know this is Tom Brady Day, and I get it that, we're honoring him, and it's the Gillette home opener. It's rocking. It is. But, again, the Eagles are too much, all right? They're clearly the better team on paper. I've said before, our offensive line sucks, and I'm sorry. I just don't think we have a chance at all in this game. And I think that Jalen Hurts is still going to go off on us. I think that A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are still going to find ways in Belichick's defense. And I think Philly's just going to go in there and rout Belichick in New England. I know it's Tom Brady Day. I know they've got big festivities planned and all that. But I forgot, that I had this game too. So, like I said, guys, I don't think the Patriots have a chance. So I'm going to go with the Eagles to win 28-10 over my New England Patriots. I think we're going to get routed in the home opener for Gillette on Tom Brady Day. Yeah, I don't think we're going to be that good. Cowboys and the Giants. Ah, man. I want to take the Giants to upset Dallas. I really do. But I learned some interesting things leading up to this game. And I don't know about this, okay? Darren Waller's questionable with a hamstring, right? And Dak Prescott's won his last 10 games against the Giants. You remember the last time Dak Prescott lost to the Giants? I was a senior in high school when the Giants last beat Dak Prescott, okay? And I was in that life in December of 2016. That's the last time the Giants beat Dak Prescott, okay? And I know I've said the Giants, I love their offseason, what they were able to do, and I think they're going to be a playoff team, and They have no excuse not to make the playoffs. They have no excuse not to make the playoffs. They really don't, okay? But I just think Dallas is better. I think Dallas is better. Roster standpoint, I think that I don't know how they're going to block DeMarcus Lawrence when they struggled to block him last year. And Micah Parsons has been adding more to his game. I don't know how they're going to block him if they can't block DeMarcus Lawrence. So I'm going to go with the Cowboys to win a close game in MetLife. And the Dallas Cowboys win 27-24 over the New York Giants. The Monday night game to cap everything off. Bills and the Jets. Aaron Rodgers debuted at MetLife. Crowd's going to be rocking. Anniversary of 9/11. New York, again, all the hype, all the pressure, all the expectations are going to be there on them. And the Bills, again, the Bills know that this is the biggest threat to their division right now is the Jets. And I think the Bills win. I think it's going to be too much to overcome from Rodgers. I think we're expecting a little too much from the Jets. The hype train's gotten a little off the rails lately. And again, I got to remind people that, are we convinced Robert Saile is that good of a coach? Because all his sayings and all that have made Hard Knocks headlines, but I don't know if they're going to translate to wins and results on the field this first week. I think the Jets' first 9 games are brutal. And I'm going to take the Bills to win because I think the Bills now have the stress off from last year. They're focused. They're going to be re-energized, and they're going to be ready to prove once again they were the best team in the AFC last year, not the Chiefs, not the Bengals. They were the best team, and they should have been the 1 seed, and they know that they should have been in that Super Bowl last year had it not been for that traumatic effect with Damar Hamlin. So I'm going to go with the Bills to win 28-24 over the Jets. I think that Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, I don't know if Stephon Diggs will have a big day because he's got Sauce Gardner on him, but I think Josh Allen will make enough key plays in that game to give the Bills the edge over the Jets in this game, and the Bills go into MetLife and ruin Aaron Rodgers' debut with the Jets. All right, so that's my Week 1 picks. Hope you guys enjoyed the show today. I know we've, had a different spin on things. I know I'm usually a little earlier with this, but a couple things were going on that busy that I had to take care of. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in to Loungetime. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so that way you guys can get all the latest updates that you guys need for new episodes on Loungetime. And when, we're going to go live with a couple episodes and stuff. And make sure to, guys, follow us on Loungetime Pod on X. We have our first Twitter account for the season. This is the first year we're doing it, so both of those episodes are on there. If you guys want to check that stuff out, make sure to give the X account a follow at Loungetime Pod. So that way you guys can also get updates on when those episodes go live too, okay? Plus you might get an upset pick that I might have late in case I'm waiting on a few things. So that's that. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in to Loungetime. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. And I will see you guys next week on the next episode of Loungetime. Have a good weekend, everybody.